Biochar gets a lot of hype. It's promoted as a long-lasting soil-enhancing miracle that boosts fertility, stores carbon, and builds microbial life. So naturally I wanted to try it in my own beds. I got a bag of fine, raw biochar, worked it into my topsoil, watered deeply, and waited for the magic. But instead of lush growth, I got pale leaves, stalled plants, and dry, tired-looking soil. That's when I realized I'd made a critical mistake, one that nearly set my soil back an entire season. Before I share how I fixed it, I want to hear from you. Have you ever used biochar in your soil? Was it raw or pre-charged? Drop a comment and let's compare experiences. Now here's how I almost wrecked my raised bed, and the simple fix that turned it into one of the most fertile zones in my garden. So I mixed the raw biochar directly into my raised bed soil without preparing it in any way. You know, biochar is lightweight, porous, and incredibly absorbent, so I just assumed it would hold water and nutrients like a sponge. But well, that absorbency turned out to be the problem. Instead of helping my plants, the raw biochar actually pulled nutrients out of the soil. It basically vacuumed up the available nitrogen, potassium, and magnesium, leaving my seedlings starving. Within a week, the basil was yellowing. My beans stalled. The compost I had added didn't break down well. The soil, which had looked fluffy and rich, felt drier and duller. It was clear the biochar had locked up the nutrients and honestly, thrown the soil biology out of balance. That's when I learned about charging or inoculating biochar. See, biochar isn't fertilizer, it's actually a habitat. If you don't fill it with microbes and nutrients first, it just absorbs everything around it like a dry sponge. I took the rest of the biochar and soaked it in compost tea mixed with a little aged manure. I let it sit in a bucket for a full week, stirring every day to keep it aerobic. The tea turned darker and smelled earthy, signs that microbes were multiplying. Once charged, the biochar took on a totally different role in the garden. I added it back to the same bed and monitored the changes over the next 2 weeks. After charging, the transformation was quick. The soil held moisture better, the smell improved, and earthworms returned. Within 5 days, the yellowing stopped, and new growth on my tomatoes and herbs looked healthier. The compost began breaking down again, and the soil structure felt soft and breathable. What changed wasn't just the nutrients, it was the biology. Charged biochar became a home for beneficial microbes, just like compost does. It stopped pulling nutrients away and started holding them for the roots to access when needed. That's the real power of biochar. When prepared correctly, it stabilizes organic matter, holds nutrients like a bank, and supports a thriving soil food web. But raw and untreated, it's a disaster waiting to happen. So, biochar's porous structure is just perfect for microbial colonization, but it's also, well, chemically hungry. When you add it raw, it actually scavenges nutrients from the soil to balance itself out. Charging biochar first neutralizes this tendency and, fills its pores with life, basically turning it into a living sponge instead of a nutrient thief. When it's soaked in compost tea, biochar becomes this long-lasting microbe reservoir. And unlike compost, it doesn't decompose, it actually persists for decades. So that means it keeps supporting the soil year after year, holding water and nutrients right where plants need them most. I almost gave up on biochar after that first failed try, but once I understood the science, it became one of the most valuable amendments in my soil building system. It's not a shortcut, it's a tool, and like any tool, it works best when used right. If your garden needs better moisture retention, microbial support, and long-term nutrient stability, charged biochar might be the fix you're looking for. And if this helped you avoid a mistake or gave you a new strategy to try, do one more thing. Subscribe to Soil Doctor, share this with a gardener friend, and stay tuned for more proven ways to revive and rebuild soil from the ground up.